Hello, 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 and happy Tuesday, my friends. Yesterday, we had a good kickoff to our math week talking about rounding and estimation, and today we are going to move on to multiplying some decimal numbers. How's that sound? I think it sounds great. So let's take a look at our objective here today. It says, I can multiply decimal numbers by using area models. So by the end, oh my goodness, where'd it go? Okay, there it is. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to multiply decimal numbers. And what do I mean by decimal numbers? I mean numbers that have decimals, numbers that have whole numbers and decimal numbers. So numbers like 3 and 5/10, 72 and 6/10, maybe even 1 and 936 thousandths. Who knows? But actually, I know because I have the cheat sheet right here. Anyway, so we're multiplying decimal numbers and we're using the area model. Today we're using the area model because I think it best shows you what you're doing, and I know that it works for a lot of people. So we can use the area model today. All right, so let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so first we need a decimal number. I'm going to start with 3 and 5/10, just like I did earlier. All right. On your guided practice with your teacher, you're going to be asked this same question, but I want us to take a minute and I want us to think about all of the ways we can say this number, 3 and 5/10. Okay, so go ahead and pause. How can we say this number? All right, so hope you had a good conversation. All right, obviously we can say it as 3 and 5/10, right? That's how we see it in standard form. We see it 3 and, there's our decimal, and 5/10. However, we can also say this as 3 ones and 5/10, right? Now, there's another way that we can say this, and it's going to take us thinking about place value. Okay, so we can also say that 3 and 5/10 is the same thing as 35/10. Now, you might automatically go, whoa, 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 Mr. Austin, we can't do that. Okay, and you might say that because of our rule of you can't have more than 10 in a place value. But here's the thing with numbers. We can manipulate them to help us understand however which way we want, and it's going to be fine. Okay, so let me show you how this works and how we can have something like 35/10. Okay, oh my gosh, if I could get space, that'd be great. All right, so if I just drew a place value chart, and I'm going to only make a small one because we only need to show the ones place and the tenths place. Okay, here's our decimal, ones, tenths. Okay, in our number 3 and 5/10, we have 3 ones. I'm actually going to do dots because I think they illustrate this point better. Okay, we have 3 ones and 5/10, correct? Okay, well, I'm going to make this a different color so I don't get confused. Okay. Okay. So where I'm going with this is these 3 ones, it took 10/10 to make one of these ones, right? So one of these ones is the same thing as 10/10. So if we moved it over, okay, we'd have 10 of these. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. We do the same thing with this one. We'd have 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Same thing with this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Take my word for it. There are now 35 dots in here. Okay. And that's how we can say that 3 and 5/10 is the same thing as 35/10. All right. In 5th grade, my biggest goal for you is to understand that numbers are things that we can manipulate to make them work for us, okay? They're not rigid. They're not constricted by rules. We can be adjustable, okay? So with this in mind, I want us to think about how we might be able to multiply, okay? How we might be able to multiply 3 and 5/10, okay, our number, times a number like 11, okay? I am going to be using a place value, or not a place value chart, an area model today, because I think this illustrates my point the best. Okay, so when we're using an area model, we're looking at our numbers, right? Okay, so and at their place values. So here we have 3 1s and 5/10. Okay, and here we have 10 1, or excuse me, yes, 10 1s, or 110 and 1 1. Okay, but we're gonna run into a problem. Okay, and here's why. When we are working with numbers that are decimals, okay, Mr. Austin has to think about how he wants to explain this for like 2 seconds. Give me like 2 seconds. Okay. When we are working with numbers like 11, we're working with whole numbers, right? So their powers of 10 are pretty easy to work with. When we're working with decimal numbers, we're working with whole numbers and parts of numbers, okay? Now we can multiply times a whole number and we can multiply times a part of a number, but we can't multiply both using an area model. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this 3 and 5/10 into 35/10, which we already did right here, just so that it's easier for us to work with. Okay, so instead of 3 and 5/10, we're going to change that 3 and 5/10 to 35/10 times 11. Okay, and now we can say we have 30/10 and we have 5/10. Okay, trust me, it's just going to be easier. All right, it looks like this side is a little bit longer, so let's put our thing here. Okay, so we have 30. I'm going to put plus 5 because we had 30 plus 5, and I'm going to put tenths down here just so we don't forget. Okay, then up here we have 10 plus 1. Okay, and actually, if we think about this, right, when we show 10 plus 1, we're showing this as 10 ones, right? And 1 1. All right, just like down here, we had to have 30/10 and 5/10. See, all coming together, it's making sense now. All right, so now we're going to use the area model to multiply. We got 30 times 10. Well, we're going to use the associative property. We got 3 times 1, which is 3. Both of these numbers were multiplied by a power of 10, so that means we have 2 powers of 10. 2 powers of 10 is the same thing as 100, which means we need to multiply this 3 times 100 and give us 300. Next, we're going to multiply this 5 times 10, and we're going to get 50. Then we're going to multiply this 30 times 1 and get 30. And we're going to multiply this 5 times 1 and get 5. Okay, now we need to keep in mind, though, our place value here. So if we have 30/10 times 10, then we're going to have 300/10, right? Okay, same thing here. If we have 5/10 times 10, we're going to have 50/10. Okay, 30/10 times 1, tenths. And guess what? This is 5/10. Okay, so if we wrote these numbers in standard form, 300/10 would be the same thing as 30. 30/10 would be the same thing as 3. 50/10 would be the same thing as 5. And 5/10 is the same thing as a decimal 5. All right. If you don't believe me, you can use a place value chart to double check that. All right. Now, what do we do next? We add them all together because that's what we do in an area model. So we have 50, 30, 3, and 5/10. Mr. Austin forgot to line up his place value because we're adding. All right, add them up. All these zeros plus 5 is 5/10. In the ones place, we have a 3. And in our tens place, we have 8. So our answer is 83 and 5/10. Okay, so our answer to 3 and 5/10 times 11 is equal to 83 and 5/10. Wait a second. Okay. So just like yesterday when we were estimating, right? Okay. We were estimating and making reasonable estimations, right? I wrote 83. I wrote 3 and 5/10 times 11 equaling 83 and 5/10. And I went, that doesn't make any sense because 11 is pretty close to 10 times 3 would only be 30. Why am I getting 83? It's because of right here, friends. I wrote down 50 instead of 5. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to try this again. All right, so our biggest number is 30. Then we have 5 ones, 3 ones, and 5/10. Oh my gosh, Mr. Austin, you about made a fool of yourself, but you used reason and estimation to get the right answer. Okay, look in our tens place, we got 5. Look in our ones place, we got 8 and 3. That makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense. So 3 and 5/10 is the same thing as 38, or times 11 is 38 and 5/10. All right. You will have ample opportunity to practice this with your teacher in the guided practice. If you have questions, you can always refer back to this demonstration. Let's double check our objective for today and see if we've met it. I can multiply decimal numbers by using area models. Yes, you also used your knowledge of place value as well. So that's like a double twofer way to go. And I think we've met that objective. So go and be brilliant, my friends, and I will see you tomorrow.